Hey, it's me, Vicky. Mary, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. So here we are for the next day of the Mushroom murder trial. I've sort of lost track of how many days it's been now. It must be about 25 days, something like that. Erin is giving testimony. It's definitely coming to the business end of this trial, isn't it? It was a surprise, I think, to everyone, who we'd all been wondering whether Erin would go up and give testimony, and she has, because her defence have got very little else, have they? Now, so the jury will be the ones to decide whether it was the right thing to do. I don't think they almost didn't have any other choice than to call Erin, did they? Because there is no defence in this case, or what defence is there? So far we know that Erin is an admitted and confirmed liar, and we're going to hear more about that today. Lying about important things, not just little things, many things that she's lied about. Having cancer, not having a dehydrator, not foraging for mushrooms. Oh my God, we're going to see what a big lie that was. So when she told police initially, oh no, she'd never foraged for mushrooms. Turns out she's a mushroom lover, and she's actually foraged for mushrooms many, many times. So the more I hear about this woman, the more that Pinocchio emoji that we've got for members just seems so apt. So apt. I'm so glad that I made that emoji. In fact, I think I might even put a few up myself. Absolute Pinocchio. Come on. I mean, ridiculous. I mean, there's lies and there's lies. Everybody tells little lies sometimes. And I think what the defence are trying to say is that Erin lied about the foraging for mushrooms and the dehydrator because she was panicking. Yeah, you bet your ass she was panicking. She was panicking from that day in the hospital when they said to her, oh, we think these people have got death cap mushroom poisoning and you might need a liver transplant. And then that's when it all started for Erin, trying to sort of make things up, lying about things. I don't think she ever thought it would get found out that there were death cap mushrooms in there. I'm 100% convinced she was aware there were death cap mushrooms in there from day one. She put them there deliberately. Whether she meant to kill them or whether she just meant to teach them a lesson and make them ill, that I'm not sure about. But anyway, there you go. That's what we're going to look at today. Her next bit of evidence that she's given. I think it's still not finished. This trial has gone on as long as they thought, and longer than the judge thought then, didn't he? In the beginning, he thought it would be quicker, but it's not. There's a lot of testimony from Erin today. It's all about Erin now. Okay, so, and we know it must be coming to the nitty-gritty, because even the BBC are there in the courtroom, and that's the first time that I've seen a live coverage from them, but maybe I've just missed it. But anyway, they're there. So first of all, I just want to say thank you, of course. Thank you to everyone watching, liking, subscribing, especially people who, those of you that are watching this case, caring about these victims. Because sometimes victims aren't as glamorous as other victims, are they? Some cases get more traction than others. And this case, even though it's a totally wild case, sometimes I think maybe it hasn't got the same traction like internationally as other cases get, just because the victims are elderly. I honestly do think that makes a difference. But these people, they went to that lunch trusting that Erin was going to make them a nice lunch. They never suspected for a minute they were going to be poisoned. And they went there, they listened to her talk about the cancer that she didn't have. They prayed for her. At the end of the meal, she sat there and watched them eat that meal that she served up to them. And it's foul. Anyway, so thank you for caring about them. We've got Don, who is Erin's estranged husband, Simon's dad, his wife Gail, Simon's mum, Gail's sister Heather, who is Simon's auntie, and Ian Wilkinson, her husband, the only survivor. Though he was critically ill, he had to have a liver transplant, but he seems to be okay now. So, but of course, he's had the trauma of everything he's been through, but physically seems to be okay now. So thank you for caring about them. They are at the end of the day, they are, if you'll pardon the expression, they are the root of this. They are the important people in this case, because especially the 3 that died, they need their justice. So, yeah, thank you for caring about them. Let me just put up a picture of Erin. So, yeah, this is Erin. She's a mushroom lover. She's declared herself as a mushroom lover. She talks too much about mushrooms, I think, today in her testimony. Made it clear that she knows a lot about mushrooms. She knows a lot about them. She loves mushrooms. And she knew 100% what was in those meals, as far as I'm concerned. So, special thank you, as well as all of you that watch my videos. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to press the notification bell for your notifications. And very special thank you to my members. We're rocketing towards Thursday again. Thursday night will be Members Live. I'm going to have another video to show you. And on Thursday, we're going to talk about another case. Not really about the case. We're going to talk about Sebastian Rogers, but about the grifters that are making money from the Sebastian Rogers case unashamedly, not even caring really about the case or whether it's solved. In fact, I reckon these grifters, they're praying that the Sebastian Rogers case is never solved so that they can carry on grifting, having these YouTube wars and arguments. Everyone's jumping on the bandwagon. It's just sickening. That's what I'm going to talk about on Thursday in the Members Live. Sebastian Rogers grifters, basically. So in fact, and it makes me now where I don't want to do a video about Sebastian Rogers because it's so horrible what everybody else is doing. Anyway, never mind. I can't go on a rant about that. That'll be Thursday. So thank you to all my members. You are the mainstay of my channel. Thank you so much. Thank you to those of you who sent me super chats, Ko-fis. A lot of you appreciate me covering this particular case. Thank you for that. The nice messages I get, the nice emails I get, etc. Thank you so much. Okay, so where are we going now? Where are we going to start? Well, so hi lurkers. I can kiss to my lurkers. I've been doing a lot of lurking lately. That's how I know about these grifters and the Sebastian Rogers case. I've lurked in quite a few videos, and honest God, it's just disgusting. People's, who make you ashamed to be a YouTuber, to be honest. I hate these YouTubers that give other YouTubers a bad name. Anyway, hi lurkers from a fellow lurker. Thank you for watching. Hi replay crew, thank you for watching. And now let's see who's in the chat, see who's brave enough to come into the chat and have a chat about mushrooms. Hi Excel, hi Tracy. Sydney. Hi David. Hi Bluebell. Hi Angel. Hi Swin. Oh, I'm going dizzy going down the chat. So you're doing a lot of chatting. That's good. She looks like the mushrooms. Okay, so she's a mushroom lover. She's admitted that this morning. There's nothing she doesn't know about mushrooms. I don't think this was a good idea personally for her to testify to say all this, because if I was a juror, I'd just be watching and thinking, well, anything that I might have thought that you didn't really know about mushrooms, maybe you picked them by accident, blah, de, blah, de, blah. Now I would be thinking, you're a bloody mushroom expert. She knows nearly as much as Funky Tom about mushrooms. She could teach Funky Tom a thing or two. So, I just can't believe she didn't know that those, let's suppose she did buy them from the Asian supermarket, which she did in a million years. But let's suppose she did. She would have known that there was something not right about them. She knows so much about mushrooms. Anyway, never mind. So let's get on with it. Let's have a look where this testimony started. As I say, I've got a choice because I couldn't decide whether to use the BBC live thing, but we have been using the ABC's sort of live commentary on the trial, and they've been quite good, haven't they? So we'll use this. And if I see anything different on the BBC one, I'll call it to attention. So let's start off with this video from Alexandra Alvaro, who is the reporter there for the ABC News.
Erin Patterson will be back in the witness box today. Yesterday, she spoke really fondly about Gail Patterson, her mother-in-law, and one of the guests at that fatal beef Wellington lunch. She spoke about the birth of her first child. She described it as a traumatic birth. She said that she had to have an emergency C-section, but she said that it was Gail Patterson who really helped her through that time after the birth. She said,
so she's just going through what happened yesterday, what she said yesterday.
That she was really patient and gentle with her. She told her to really just enjoy this time with her newborn. She said that at that time she was feeling really out of her depth. And she also said that it was one of the Wilkinsons, one of Simon's cousins, who walked her down the aisle for her wedding. She said that her parents were holidaying at Russia during that time, and it was one of Simon's cousins who walked her down the aisle. But she also spoke about the relationship that she had with the...
It's odd, isn't it, that her parents were on holiday in Russia when she got married? I mean, it's like... was it that short notice that they'd already booked that holiday or whatever? Fancy your parents not coming to your wedding. It just seemed a bit awful.
Patterson's leading up to that beef Wellington lunch. She said that at that time she had started to become more distanced with the Pattersons, that she was getting the impression that Simon, her estranged husband, didn't want her to have that closer relationship or didn't want her to be as involved with the family as she was. And we heard earlier on in the trial that from Simon Patterson that they were having disagreements over child support at that time. And we also heard that at that time before the lunch, her relationship with Simon had become...
So this is Simon, her estranged husband, appearing at court. He gave his testimony. God, it feels like years ago now. He gave his testimony right at the beginning of the trial, as did Ian Wilkinson, the only survivor of that lunch, apart from Erin, of course. And that's him. That's her estranged husband. And yeah, I think yesterday it was very important, what we heard about how Erin's relationship with Simon and her in-laws had deteriorated over that past year as Erin lost control. I still think this is all about control. I think the motive here is pure spite, to be honest, if she's guilty, of course, allegedly.
More functional. She said that their relationship was really now limited to discussions around the children and around helping out with the local church service. Now, Erin Patterson is accused of murdering 3 of her estranged husband's relatives by serving them a beef Wellington lunch containing death cap mushrooms. She's pleaded not guilty to all charges. She says that she did not deliberately poison her guests.
So did she deliberately do it or didn't she? I mean, you'll see in a moment, she definitely has acknowledged that it was death cap mushrooms. She's acknowledging that, but she's saying it was an accident. So, second day of Erin Patterson's testimony begins. Am I sharing? Hang on. Oh, don't tell me I'm not sharing. I was sharing, was I? Was I sharing? I don't know if tell me, was I sharing that video? If not, let me know and I'll put it on again. But anyway, I'm definitely sharing now. So a second day of Erin Patterson's testimony has begun. And Erin has returned to the witness box to begin a second day of evidence at her triple murder trial. She's wearing a dark top with white polka dots. And as she did yesterday, she's got her glasses sitting by her side and a cup of water on the table before her. Every seat in courtroom 4 appears to be filled. So this trial is just, as it comes to the business end, if you like, it's attracting more and more attention. As he has throughout the trial, the surviving lunch guest, Ian Wilkinson, is sitting at the back of the courtroom with his family. Let's have another look at a picture of... Oh, I did. Right. Okay. Good. Good. Okay. Let's have a look at a picture of Ian. So this was Ian one of the days he arrived at the trial, looking healthy. So his liver transplant, luckily for him, it worked, didn't it? Luckily for him. But of course, the emotional trauma he's been through, you can't really... How do you mend that? Yeah. So let's go to the next one. So Colin Mandy begins asking Erin Patterson about her grandmother who passed away in 2006. So let's just have a look at Colin. We like to have a little look at... This is the defence lawyer, Colin Mandy. He's the one who is... I mean, this is... she's had a full day of testimony yesterday. She has a full day today. Don't think it's quite finished yet. She certainly hasn't been cross-examined yet. So it's, it's really getting into it now. So the court hears that Erin was one of several beneficiaries in her grandmother's will, and a number of properties were involved. The first distribution of funds was 2007 and the last in 2015. Erin says. She says that helps the family. So although Erin complains a lot about her family, of course, but she did get left a lot of money to the equivalent, I think, $2 million in her grandmother's will. She was one of several beneficiaries. I wonder how her grandmother got so rich. But anyway, she was rich and she left Erin a lot of money. And Erin was generous with that money. I think we can't deny that, So she says the travel, particularly international, was a big part of that. It did allow us to buy a home when we settled in Western Australia without a mortgage. She also helped Simon Patterson's siblings buy homes, offering loans of about $400,000 each to 2 couples. That's a lot of money, isn't it? And I think they were interest-free loans. So the repayments from Simon's siblings were of amounts and timing of their choosing. So it wasn't even a set amount. And the repayments solely covered inflation, not interest, Erin said. So she was very generous. But of course, she was in control then. I honestly think, while she had the control, she was generous to them. But then when she felt she was losing the control, she started to get a bit resentful that they weren't being grateful enough. That's how it feels to me anyway. So apparently, now we didn't know this before, did we? She owned a second-hand bookstore. In about 2011, Erin started up a second-hand bookstore in Pemberton. Is that Western Australia, WA? I spent months travelling around the southwest and Western Australia, collecting books to sell there, she says. I went to a lot of book fairs and libraries selling their old stock and estates selling their books, and I did that for quite a while. I painted the inside of the shop. I bought about 30 or 35 bookshelves from IKEA, put them together, and I got things like the internet and phone set up. So then the court hears that Erin and Simon packed up in about 2013, I don't know how the bookshop went, and moved back to Victoria. It was the culmination of a lot of factors. Our son was very extroverted and he seemed to struggle with the lack of siblings and contact with cousins and living in the middle of nowhere, no friends to play with, she said. And she says that on trips back to Victoria, it was clear her son really enjoyed time with his cousins. Erin said she was also then pregnant with her daughter and wanted to be near Don and Gail for that next chapter of the family's life. She never mentions her parents, does she really? You know, where were her parents living? Did she want to be, did she have a relationship with her? Maybe she'll come on to talking about it later, but maybe that's just not the focus of this investigation. But yeah, she doesn't mention her. The only time she's really mentioned her parents is to say that they were in Russia when she got married. When they settled back in Victoria, they moved in with Don and Gail for a few weeks. It was cramped in that all three of us were in the one room. But it didn't matter because Don and Gail were so welcoming to us. And I think they loved having all three of us there, Erin says. It was a really good experience. So they separated apparently multiple times. So I think we gathered, or we'd had already gathered, hadn't we, that their relationship is a complex one. You know, that they had separated times. We couldn't be sure, you know, how, what's the word I'm looking at, you know, why they kept separating. It seemed that even at the end of this, you know, this up to this lunch, right up to it, there were times when it looked like they might get together, then they separated, then they might get together. So, you know, maybe that's, you know, just a characteristic of their relationship, isn't it? It was a complex relationship. Oh, thank you, Miss Lee. I'm sorry you're feeling down this morning. I hope you feel better soon. Yeah, have a chat with the chatters. They're all chatting. So, you know, yeah, you're not alone as long as you're in the Vicky Marie live chat. You're not alone. Hi, Pam. Hi, Pam. Sorry, just making sure I haven't missed anybody new coming in. Oh, thank you, Tracy. Yes, hit the like button. Thank you so much. Okay, so going back to this. Sorry, I'm getting sidetracked. I shouldn't get sidetracked, but I like to say hello to people. So Mr. Mandy says the couple went through a formal separation in 2015, the end of 2015, but reconciled at least twice. And Erin says they tried to figure out a good arrangement for the children. You know, they had different needs, she says, adding that the children were 1 and 6 years old at this time. And she says the couple's assets were divided up without lawyers. We just wrote down what we had, you know, property, cash, what was owed to us. And then we divided it down the middle is the best way to describe it, Erin says. And she said that in the immediate aftermath of the separation, it was difficult as it had been at other separations. I wonder why they kept separating. You know, we don't really know the reasons. You know, was it an affair? Did one of them have an affair? Was it, I don't know, they found out that they were telling lies or they were just arguing about stuff? You know, it's one of those funny relationships. Seemed like they couldn't live apart, but they couldn't live together. Anyway, that only lasted a handful of weeks. We went back to just being really good friends. And she says she constantly reflected on the reasons for the separation. I didn't want to be separated, but I felt there was no choice, Erin says. Our primary problem was if we had a disagreement or any kind of conflict, we didn't seem to be able to talk about it in a way where either of us felt heard or understood. We just felt hurt and we didn't really know how to do that well. Yeah, maybe some marriage guidance might have been good for them, but anyway. Erin says the couple still really liked each other, but living together didn't work. But she says the care of the children was important to both of them, and they worked to juggle that around Simon's working hours. But she says she still attended. This again, I think, is key. Because at this time, she was still being included in the wider family, wasn't she? So she was happy with that. She was in control. She was still part of that family. She still attended Patterson family events, and her, Simon and the kids still holidayed as a family. We went to Tasmania a couple of times. We went to Darwin, caught the train there into Adelaide. We went to Queensland. We went to New Zealand. We went to South Africa. And we went to my mum's house in Eden, New South Wales. So that's where her mum lives. And she said that her relationship with Don and Gail never changed over that time. I was just their daughter-in-law. They just continued to love me, she says, her voice breaking up. I honestly, I think when it was when they started to distance from her, that's when she started plotting doing something to them, I think. She liked to be the centre of attention, Erin. Anyway, it's for the jury to decide, not me. I'm just reflecting out loud. I'm thinking out loud, really. So Mr. Mandy asked Erin about her relationship with Heather Wilkinson and Ian Wilkinson. Now, don't forget that Ian Wilkinson himself, he's the survivor of the lunch, said that he and Heather, they were just acquaintances with Erin. They'd never been invited round to her house for lunch before. That was the first time. He would say that they had nothing more than, he said that they had nothing more than a nodding acquaintanceship. So, yes, but she would attend the Corranborough Baptist Church where Mr. Wilkinson was a pastor, was the pastor. And Erin says she was attending church during that time and always chatted to Ian if she could. Heather would always make a point of coming to talk to me, she says. I saw them sometimes at Christmas gatherings, you know, that side of the family. I probably didn't get to chat to Ian so much, but Heather would always go out of her way to sit with me and make sure I had company. As she finishes talking about Heather making time to make her feel welcome, Erin's voice trembles a little. I mean, you know, maybe she did not mean to kill these people. So maybe that's why she's getting upset, or maybe she's realizing what she's lost. I mean, there is a part of me that thinks if she was in, would she have tried to kill 4 people all at one hit like that? You know, or, you know, sort of part of me is thinking that maybe she didn't mean to kill them just to make them quite ill. But I just don't know. Because, I mean, it's obvious when 4 people fall ill from a lunch, that's going to attract attention, isn't it? Wouldn't you have tried to kill them off more one by one? You know, that's a possibility, isn't it? So it's a definite possibility. So, yeah, it's a real conundrum, this case. I don't envy the jury, to be honest, having to make the decision. Because it's a big thing, you know, triple murder is a big thing. You know, it's not a shoplifting charge, is it? So it's all about if she's found guilty, she'll be sent to prison for life at the end of the day. So they've got to be sure. So Erin confirms she is a Christian. In discussing the church, Erin's religion is again questioned by the defence. Earlier in the trial, Facebook friends of Erin Patterson. Oh, I'm just looking at that. See how that's, if my American critic of my spelling is watching, see how that says defence with a C. That's how Australians and British people spell it. But hey, thanks for watching. Earlier in the trial, Facebook friends of Erin Patterson told the court that Erin had divulged that she was in fact an atheist. So that's what she told her friend. Now, no, I think, have you noticed the way she talks to her Facebook friends is completely different to the way she describes everything, like here, you know, saying her relationship with the family, whether she's an atheist or not. She told her Facebook friends about the dehydrator. She told them she'd been putting dried mushrooms in everything. She, you know, that's very different the way she's spoken to her Facebook friends to the way she's talking now, isn't it? So Mr. Mandy asks if Erin Patterson told her Facebook friend Christine Hunt that she was an atheist, and she denies it. I was and I am a Christian. And Mr. Mandy says, did you make any comment to your Facebook friends about religion? And she said, they would gently make fun of the fact that I was religious, and I would try to, I don't know, evangelize back to them in a sense, but it was all in good humor. She admits she told the group that she had previously been an atheist and expressed unhappiness with some aspects of organized religion. But I've got to put the Pinocchio emoji back up. You know, these are more lies. Come on. You know, what's the truth? Are you an atheist or aren't you? Or are you a not sure? You know, she's just, I feel with Erin, she just says what suits her at the time, doesn't she? She just says what suits her at the time. And then she thinks everybody, you know, oh yeah, I was lying last time, but I'm telling the truth this time. You know, that's what she does. She is a bloody Pinocchio. Definite Pinocchio. So she admits she told the group she'd previously been an atheist, and she expressed unhappiness with some aspects of organized religion. Well, you know, I just don't believe that. And I'll tell you something, I've never been an atheist. I don't believe in religion. There's a lot of organized religion I don't agree with. But I've never, ever been an atheist. It's as clear as that. You either believe in God or you don't. So at the end of the day, Erin is a proven liar. She is a proven liar. Anyway, then Mr. Mandy asks Erin about her roles at Corranborough Baptist Church in 2023, and she says she was helping with the streaming of the live services. She says a website required coding and a YouTube link to sustain a video feed of Pastor Ian Wilkinson's service. Oh, and something I just wanted to add here that they haven't mentioned. Nobody seems to have zoned in on the fact that Erin, we found out yesterday, she was planning on going back to university to study to be a midwife and a nurse. These Beverly Allitt vibes, Lucy Letby vibes. This woman, it just made me go cold when I read that. None of the other sort of media things seem to have picked up on that. Just made me go cold. The thought of it, 50 years old, why would she go and trying to be a nurse and a midwife? Why? Imagine her being in charge of people's lives. She just reminds me of Beverly Allitt a lot, to be honest. The mental state. Lies. Beverly Allitt was a liar. And, you know, Lucy Letby, in my opinion, is another liar. You know, some people, they just lie. So when COVID, when COVID began in March of 2020 and churches couldn't meet, Simon and Don, maybe some others, quickly set up an ability to stream the services. Don was the one, he was like a coding genius. He set up the website and he made it all happen. But a few months in, Gail became quite unwell. What happened to Gail, I wonder? You know, I'm now thinking this woman, anytime anyone was ill, I'm thinking, was it something to do with her? But, you know, we don't know that. I don't know why Gail came unwell. And Don was struggling to maintain that work. Oh, and she offered to take some of the load off his shoulders. Oh, funny that, isn't it? So Gail gets ill and Erin saves the day, steps in and offers to take some of the load off his shoulders. Do you know, it just makes you wonder, what has this woman been doing before? You know, I'm totally lost, you know, as far as I'm concerned now, after everything I've seen in this trial, I think Erin Patterson is a bad woman, an evil woman. I think she's one of those people that there's so much going on in her head that you can't conceive of. Yeah, funny that is. That's like Munchausen's by proxy, isn't it? You make someone unwell and then you step in and save the day. Wasn't that what Bev Allitt was doing? Making the babies ill and then saving them. Yeah, she's a very sinister woman, in my opinion. Now, there's probably those of you out there maybe that think she's innocent, and that's fine, but I'm just saying what I think. And the vibes that she gives me very, very sinister vibes. And, you know, her giving this testimony hasn't changed that. In fact, it's made me feel worse. Oh, wait, you know, and it gets worse as it goes on. So then we hear about Erin's property portfolio. At one stage, there were 3 properties under her and Simon's names, 2 in the Gippsland region and Mount Waverley in Melbourne. She says she did this because she wanted some way to demonstrate to Simon that she saw a future for them and the family being reunited. See, people who need attention, sometimes maybe the separations were about that. You know, you separate from someone. You know, when you get bored in the relationship, you know, relationships do get boring, don't they, when they become commonplace, you know, when you've been together for a long time and it all gets routine. So Erin, she liked the excitement. So she, you know, that's another possibility to me. You know, wanting the attention from Simon. Oh, yeah, we can get back together, you know. Just, you know, she's a bad person. I'll tell you, if she's acquitted, will anyone ever go to her house for lunch again? No. So Mr. Mandy, in fact, and her kids would be scared of eating lunch, I think. Mr. Mandy says ultimately, though, these assets were divided up with Erin's name solely on Leongatha and Mount Waverley homes. So then she admits, so this was the massive lie that she told, that she had cancer. At that lunch, she told those poor people she had cancer. They all prayed for her at the end. So Mr. Mandy asks Erin about her claims about having cancer. Have you ever had ovarian cancer? He asks. No, I have not, Erin says. Have you ever had a needle biopsy on a lump on your elbow? I've never had a needle biopsy anywhere. Were you worried about having ovarian cancer at some stage? Yeah, I was. So I don't, you know, I'm a bit speechless about this because she's admitting now she lied about having cancer. She lied about having a biopsy. But now she's telling the truth. So she says a few years ago she was worried about ovarian cancer. I felt very fatigued. I had ongoing abdominal pain. I had chronic headaches. I put on a lot of weight in quite a short period of time, and my feet and my hands seemed to retain a lot of fluid. My wedding ring suddenly wouldn't fit, so I took them to, you know, she was putting on weight. That's what was going on with Erin. So I took them to the local jeweler to be resized, and only a few weeks later when I went to pick them up, my hands had outgrown them again. So this was a rapid thing that caused me concern. and I consulted Dr. Google. Well, I think we've all done that. We Google our symptoms. If like me, I don't like going to the doctor, but I don't go around telling people I've got cancer or that I'm having a biopsy when I'm not. So she says there was a family history that added to her concern, including some health issues that her daughter had experienced in 2014 with an ovarian mass. Right from when she was born, I thought there was something wrong, Erin said. She cried a lot for long durations that I thought demonstrated pain, and I took her to a lot of doctors and even the hospital. And what they communicated to me that I was an over-anxious mother that should relax, and she's just a normal baby. And I don't know if they're going to bring the doctor's statements on, but that sounds like could well be Munchausen's by proxy to me. I mean, I just don't trust anything Erin does after this trial. Everything that's come out. Just don't trust anything. Because sometimes people do things like this. As much as we can't get our head around it, wouldn't be unusual for somebody to phone their ex-partner and say, to do something to their child, literally give them something to make them ill. I don't mean kill them, but, give them stomach pains or whatever, just so they've got an excuse to phone their ex-partner and get them round there. It happens all the time. And Erin seems to me a likely person to do that from all the things that have come out. An emotional Erin says that after escalating concerns, she returned to the hospital, but staff there said her daughter probably had a very full bladder. She says the whole experience considerably damaged my faith in the health system. I didn't like hospitals before it, like who does, but I didn't trust that these people knew what they were doing, and I was just in a heightened state of anxiety ever after about my daughter's health. I don't want to lose her. Yeah, I just don't trust this woman at all. Yeah. And I think you're right, Excel. I think I can't wait for the prosecutor to cross-examine her. Can't wait for her to be cross-examined, because there's things that she's just leaving herself open, isn't she? Anyway. So Mr. Mandy takes Erin through other experiences she had. I mean, how many people do have bad experiences sometimes with the health system, the medical system, but it seems like Erin's had a lot. Other health episodes with her children. Right, where's my red flags? Other bad health experiences with her children. Just makes you wonder, what has this woman been up to? What has she been up to? Huh? Very odd. Now, I felt that somebody said hello to Misty then. Hi, Misty, if you're there. Maybe I didn't see that. Maybe I imagined that. But yeah, so many, what's she been doing to her children that they've had all these health episodes? She recounts another very traumatic health episode where her screaming daughter, who was 11 at the time, had a tube put into her nose. And she says a similar issue occurred with her son, where no one would listen to her concern about a knee injury after a bike accident. It was this merry-go-round of health specialists until someone said he needed surgery on his knees. She said her son was x-rayed on the wrong side of his body, and when she pointed it out, she was treated with condescension. Well, I don't know the full story about that, but it sounds awful, of course. Oh, God. So apart from cancer, she also thought she had a brain tumour. Erin then details another chapter of health concerns where she was worried by chronic and increasingly frequent headaches. She says she turned to Dr. Google. and convinced herself she had a brain tumour, and she was referred for an MRI. And Mr. Mandy then brings up a few images showing an internet search result on ovarian cancer, specifically about it metastasizing to the brain. I think they were sick of her at that hospital. It seemed like she was always at the hospital with something, either her or her kids. You know, I thought she didn't like hospitals. Seems like she practically lived in the hospital. So the train just kept going, Erin says. She also looked into multiple sclerosis and lupus and autoimmune conditions. She said her GP referred her to a rheumatologist and a general physician. He probably didn't know what the hell to do with her. The train just kept going, she says, of that period of researching her medical symptoms. I think I wasted a lot of time, not just my time, no shit, Sherlock, but medical people's time through all my doctor Googling. It's hard to justify it, but with the benefit of hindsight, I can see that. I just lost so much faith in the medical system that I decided that anything to do with my health and the children's health, I'll sort myself. Oh my God. Oh, those poor kids. She says she now realises doctors have the training required. Oh, I mean, doctors make mistakes like everybody. At the end of the day, doctors are people. They're not gods, so sometimes doctors do make mistakes. But it just seems, doesn't it, that Erin was there so often, and I think it's true that sometimes you have to follow your own instincts as a parent. Sometimes doctors don't get it right. But, the problem with someone like Erin as well is a bit of this cry wolf syndrome, isn't it? You don't want to be the person that when you turn up at the doctor's face drops and it's like, oh, not you again, do you? You want them to treat you properly, to take care in trying to diagnose you, not think, oh, God, here she is again. She had a brain tumour last week. What she got this week? Okay. So then the stoosh, what does stoosh mean? Is that an Australian term? Stoosh after child support between Simon and Erin. I have no idea what stoosh means. Erin says the topic of child support first came up in her memory in October of 2022 as she was preparing her tax return paperwork. And she says in a discussion with Simon, she learned he had listed himself as single on his tax return. I said words to the effect of, well, that's good. Now I can claim a family tax benefit that I had been precluded from until that point, she says. So he'd listed himself as single, not even separated. Now she's saying here now that she thought that was good, but wasn't she supposed to have been irritated by that? She says that those who are single and wanting to claim family tax benefits need to put in a child support application from the other parent in order to do that. Erin said she was frustrated that she hadn't learned earlier when she could have applied for the family tax benefit, but that was her only annoyance. Mr. Mandy asks if that issue snowballed into other issues about finances. Yes, it did, Erin says. So then Erin put on her glasses as a piece of evidence is brought up on the monitor sitting in front of her in the witness box. The first message from Erin to Simon in November 2022 is about working out family schedules around the children. In Simon's reply, he gives some feedback on that and then shortly afterwards asks if she's coming to Gail's birthday lunch at the pub with the kids. Here we go. These are the crux things. In Erin's reply, she said she didn't know anything about the birthday lunch. And she said she felt hurt because she'd been left off the invite list. And then she said, but I was also annoyed with myself because I'd forgotten that it was a big birthday coming up for Gail. But yeah, I was hurt. I wonder if she baked her a cake. Do you imagine Erin would be like, oh, I'll bake you a cake for your big birthday? You'd be like, no, thank you. She probably would have put mushrooms in it. Oh, dear me. So, you wouldn't want a cake baked by her, would you? Wonder if she did offer to bake a cake. But yeah, I think this is it. Erin really had her nose pushed out of joint. And this, to me, this testimony is just proving it. So I don't really understand where the defence thought this would help Erin, to be honest. I just don't understand it at all. So the messages continue back and forth. It's almost like the defence is proving the point that Erin was pissed off with Gail. Simon told Erin his dad thought he had invited Erin, but perhaps he was confused. Erin said, I'm not too sure how your dad could have been confused what we were talking about. It's pretty obvious in this conversation. Seems that my invite tomorrow is a bit of an afterthought. But she's really peaked, isn't she? And not even from your parents. So I might pass, thanks, as I'd rather not go somewhere I'm not welcome. Because she's like a little kid, isn't she, spitting out her dummy. Either don't go then. Don't go, but, I might pass, thanks. What she wants is the more to say, oh, no, please come. Please come, Erin. Oh, no, it was an oversight. We want you to come. She wants the attention. She wants them all to plead with her to go. And Simon said, oh, come on, that's ridiculous. Do you really reckon that Daddy's lying? Anyway, I'd like to pick up the kids at whatever time, please. And then Erin said in these texts, what I reckon is that everybody forgot to actually invite me to this thing. And I feel very hurt about that. And your response is to say I'm being ridiculous. So Erin admits that she had lashed out after feeling hurt by the messages. What is Colin Mandy trying to prove here? To me, it's like he's proving that she had a motive. So she tells the court she yelled at Simon when he come to the house to pick up their daughter. But Erin says Don later reached out to her and she agreed to go to the lunch. So Don got in touch with her, probably said, oh, I'm so sorry I forgot to invite you. That's what she wanted. She wanted him on bended knees begging her to go to the party. And then she's like, oh, all right, I'll go. See, now you want me to go so much. Oh, God, I've met so many people like Erin. So then they reconciled. And Erin later sent Simon a message apologising for shouting at him about the issue during a conversation. I was feeling very hurt and I lashed out. It's no excuse. I'd like to not do that again, she texted him. Simon replied the next day, thanks for that. I'm sorry I raised my voice and tone too. I wouldn't call what either of us did was shouting, but I'm sure we're referring to the same time no matter what we call it. And I'm sorry for interrupting you too. I'd like to be much more calm and listen better than I did yesterday. And Erin says the exchange is typical of their exchanges, where Simon maybe doesn't get feelings. No, doesn't get narcissist feelings. He doesn't understand what you're going on about. And she feels unheard. You could read between the lines there. She's unheard. She's not the centre of attention. That was how things flowed, she said. Erin tells the court that arguments like this would happen weekly when they lived together, but this calmed to every 3 or 6 months once they were separated. Mr. Mandy then takes Erin to some other messages between her and Simon about their finances. Also in November 2022, Erin texted Simon saying she'd applied for a child support application and some of the details of that. The same month, Erin was forwarding Simon the anaesthetist fee for their son's surgery and asking him to pay. In an incident previously detailed to the court during Simon's evidence, Mr. Mandy recaps. that Simon told Erin the Department of Human Services had told him not to pay for things like that as part of the child support payment structure. I was hurt, Erin says, when asked how she felt. I understood that he was trying to communicate, but I didn't think what he was saying was right. But I was hurt. We'd never had any conflict over money that I could remember before this. So Mr. Mandy's taking Erin Patterson to December 2022. So this is December. Remember, then the lunch was in the following July. And a signal message exchange between her and Simon that starts on December the 6th. The first is quite a lengthy one from Simon, which notes that Erin had asked to catch up with his parents to discuss details of the separation. And Mr. Mandy asks Erin why she was asking Don and Gail over for a chat. And she said, I was struggling to achieve good communication with Simon about a few things, and I was wanting or hoping that Don and Gail might help to mediate that a little bit and help us solve that problem. She says they'd done it before. And Erin says there were a few issues with the separation at that point in time, including the payment of school fees. School fees had been paid by Simon up until the child support issue was raised, the court hears. But afterwards, Erin says Simon wanted her to pay all of them. Simon later said in a message they could fairly easily sort out the disagreement over some financial issues, and he planned to ask a mediator to help them sort it out. And Erin says when she met with Don and Gail, they said that if money was an issue, they'd pay for the school fees. I mean, they sound so sweet and helpful. And she said, that wasn't what I needed, but that was their first response, Erin says. Overridingly, they felt that Simon and I should settle the issue together, but they didn't want to become official mediators. So Mr. Mandy takes Erin through more evidence surrounding the involvement of Don and Gail in Simon and Erin's financial dispute. And messages between Erin and her in-laws show her expressing a desire to keep them involved in changing what she believed were unfair financial arrangements to cover the children's schooling fees. Then they're taken back. Remember this text that she sent to her Facebook friends? This family, I swear to effing God message. Which Erin sent to Facebook friends about this time. And in that, she expresses frustration about Gail and Don being reluctant to get involved in the dispute. And Erin says that when she wrote that message, she was really hurt, really frustrated, and felt a bit desperate. Well, we all send texts that we don't mean maybe later. But then she goes on to explain that these Facebook friends, they were like her cheer squad. She said she felt heard and validated and understood by her Facebook friends when she shared frustrations about the family. And she says they responded to her frustrations with empathy. I knew that the women would probably support me being annoyed about these things, and so I said that to them, knowing that they would latch on and become like a cheer squad for your problem, if that makes sense. And Mr. Mandy says, yeah. Now, that's fair enough. Sometimes in my chat, don't we? You chatters, you probably complain about things that you think, well, the people that are genuinely involved will never get to know about, I suppose. But I don't think you would ever mention, well, I wouldn't, and I wouldn't recommend you to do it either. It's all right to, say, oh, I'm having a bad time with my family maybe or whatever, but I don't think you should really get into it. You shouldn't give too much personal information on the internet, just full stop. Just general information is fine. I'm always saying that to you. Sometimes I have to stop people doxing themselves because I know that people relax in the chat because, we do have a lovely community, but you always have to remember that anyone can be watching, not just the nice people that you like chatting to and you trust and you feel comfortable with. Could be anybody out there watching my video and reading the chat, you know, even somebody maybe that's part of your family that you're whinging about, you know, like you never know who's watching. So you've always got to be careful. I always try and remind people of that. Don't give up too much personal information in the chat, because you just really don't know who's watching, reading. So she says the message was private. So it was a private message, was it? Private message on Facebook, or was it privately sent to one member of the group? Anyway, she says the message was private, and looking at the expletive-laden outburst now, her voice cracks as she expresses regret. Oh yeah, she'll be crying now. She's crying because she's been caught out with it. I wish I'd never said it. I feel ashamed for saying it, and I wish that the family didn't have to hear that I said that, she says. They didn't deserve it. Well, it's too late now to say that. That's what you said. And it sounds to me like Gail and Don had done nothing but be kind to her, to be honest. So just before we start, I just come into the chat, talking to the chat, just make sure you're all okay. Yeah, David, you can't complain about your sisters, can you? Because you can't complain about them, can you? Yeah, you're all okay. You're all okay, I think, in chat. So we're going to hear some of these messages. Well, not hear them. We're going to read about some of these messages. Mr. Mandy takes her to another message sent to her Facebook friends, where she says they are a lost cause. I'm sick of this shit. I want nothing to do with them. The message begins, ending in so, pardon my French, but so fuck them. I wrote that. Erin says, why is Mr. Mandy bringing this up? Do you know, we wouldn't have known. Well, I don't know if this came up before when the prosecution was speaking, but, you know, he's reinforcing it to the jury, isn't he? It's a very strange defence, this, in my opinion. What is the defence to tell people that Erin tells lies and that actually she's a bit of a bitch, to be honest? You know, what is the defence? What is the point of this defence? So she sighs and sniffs before explaining why. I needed to vent. I needed to get my frustration off my chest. And the choice was, this made me giggle a little bit, was either go into the paddock and tell the sheep or vent to these women. Oh, you know what? I'm going to have to get an emoji with a sheep on it now. There's enough. I have quite a few people like with handles to do with sheep come on my, you know, because I think of some of the Australian followers that I have, they quite often have handles that have got sheep in them. I'm going to have to put a sheep emoji in the members. So she says the choice was either to go into the paddock and tell the sheep or vent to these women. Well, she should have gone into the paddock. Don't know about you, but I quite often, I tell my dogs everything. When I want to like rage about anything, whether it's to do with family, whether it's to do with friends, whether it's to do with just general frustrations with life, you know, people that have hacked you off, I just go and tell my dogs everything. She should have told the sheep. So when she was asked if she meant those words, oh, so sorry. So she said, I regret the language that I used, but I knew that they would rally around me, and I probably played up the emotion of that a little bit to get support. Oh, no shit, Sherlock. Oh, what, Erin? Exaggerate things for attention. Oh my God, that's a real shocker, isn't it? This woman will do anything for attention. And the only reason she's upset now is because she's been found out. So when she was asked if she meant those words, she says, no, in a choked voice. She says the dispute wasn't entirely Simon's fault and she played a part in it too. I think at the time I thought I was right and he was wrong, but I reflected on it a lot in New Zealand, and I realised that it was wrong to try and involve Don and Gail, and I should have approached it differently with Simon, she says. Yeah, you know, everything she's saying is now because she's in court accused of murder. So Mr. Mandy asks Erin if she expressed frustration to Don and Gail at the same time she was venting. And she says the conflict didn't keep bubbling along, and she later apologised to her in-laws because the issues had been resolved. They were doing nothing but trying to support us, she said. Erin said she apologised for trying to involve them in something they didn't need to be worried about. She says she was in effect asking them to take sides and agree with me that I was right and Simon was wrong, and that wasn't fair. No, and it wasn't fair. And also at the end of the day, Simon is their son. You know, that, I mean, I'm sure they were fair most of the time, but Simon is their son. She's trying to control it. They helped us mediate issues in the past, but that was long before Gail had been unwell. I wonder what was wrong with Gail. And I shouldn't have done this to them at this point or ever, she says. Now, don't forget, Erin was accused originally of trying to kill her husband on a few occasions, but all that's been dropped to concentrate on this case. Just makes you wonder, doesn't it? Because Gail and Don had been over to her house for lunch many times. You know, why was Gail ill? Just makes you wonder. Anyway, a series of messages between Erin and Simon is shown to the court from December 2022. Erin sent images to Simon during a trip she was on with the children in New Zealand. Erin says the kids were on a toboggan-style Lugin rotura, which they had done before. I sent him a video and photos of them doing that because I knew he'd be really happy to see that, she says. And in a reply, Simon said, "Fantastic, thanks heaps for sending these through, and you're an expert camera operator from that vantage point with much experience over the years." And Erin says he's referring to her dislike of adrenaline things and that she usually spectates those kind of activities rather than takes part. And Mr. Mandy notes the tone has no heat to it and asks how all the financial matters were between Erin and Simon by mid-December 2022. And she said that child support was sorted out and the school fee issue was sorted shortly afterwards. And she says she remembers sending the messages from a place the whole family had previously visited together. It's like she's rubbing his face in it to me. She says that reminded her of the happy holidays she and Simon had enjoyed in the past and was hoping to extend a message of sorry and wanting communication to be better. And she says he took it graciously. No, what she was doing was look at all the fun that we're having without you. That's what she was doing, in my opinion. Anyway, so she said that the relationships returned to normal following that trip. And she said after that, her relationships with Don and Gail were strong and supportive as always. And she attended a Patterson family birthday with the kids. And it was great. Then Mr. Mandy brings up, I hope you've all got your provisions in here because it does go on quite a lot, this. I might have to go for a bathroom break shortly. But I hope, well, I might be okay. So Mr. Mandy brings up a message from Erin to Simon during the New Zealand trip where she's asked him for a favour about a tree being down across the fence at her property back in Victoria. In the message, she starts off by saying, "I understand we don't really have the kind of relationship right now where I can ask favours, but I don't have anywhere else to turn. And in his response, Simon says he can't help today because he's in Brisbane, but he can help the next day. And he says, I'm always your husband, no matter how we're doing, so no probs with you asking. And Erin agrees with Mr. Mandy that the tone was conciliatory. Okay, so then we go into a body image issue. So we saw a little bit about this yesterday, didn't we? Erin's concerns, if you like, or Erin's anxieties about her body image. So Mr. Mandy says he'll now move to ask Erin about her body image and asks her why she had an issue. I've had it ever since I was a teenager, she said, as long as I can remember. I've tried every diet under the sun. It's been a roller coaster over the years. When I was a kid, Mum would weigh us every week. What? Mum would weigh us every week to make sure we weren't putting on too much weight. And so I went to the extreme of barely eating then, and then through my adulthood going the other way and binging, I suppose, for want of a better word. I never had a good relationship with food, a healthy relationship. Erin becomes visibly emotional, which is a shame, as she says she was bulimic, binge eating 2 or 3 times a week through her 20s. Well, that's horrible to think that their parents would be weighing you every week, for God's sake. Oh my God. Has anyone had that happen to them? Or, what do you think of that? Or have you made your children do that? Or, I mean, I do know somebody who went to a private school, a boarding school, that they were made to go to, even if they didn't want to go, but their parents sent them to a boarding school. Sorry, hang on a sec. I just have to pause it. One sec. Someone's at the door. Hello. I'm back. I'm back in the room. Am I back in the room? Am I back in the room? Can somebody tell me I'm back in the room? So that was somebody trying to sell me something. So I've just got quite annoyed with them, to be honest, because all the dogs started barking, and then they started trying to come in. But anyway, I'm back now. Gosh, it's getting hot out there as well. Really hot. Thank God for my little... they started coming in. I don't answer the door. I go to the window. And next minute, they're opening the gate and coming up. I think it was like a questionnaire or something. I don't know. Okay, right, let's carry on. I think I'm going to have to put a sign Oh, I can never just have a nice, peaceful live stream. Anyway, where are we? So yeah, oh, that's right. I was saying that this friend of mine, she went to a boarding school which she didn't want to go to. She tried to escape loads of times, and they had to be weighed every week to make sure that they weren't putting on weight. So, and she has got some food issues, to be honest, because of it. She had bulimia and God knows what. But anyway, she's more or less sorted now. But of course, she's older now. But yeah. Yeah, so it's a shame. So it seemed that, it's not very nice, that, is it? But is it true? Where's Erin's parents to confirm this? So, of course, we don't know. Sometimes people say they've had a terrible childhood, and actually it turns out that they're just an entitled twonk. Do you know what I mean? That happens as well. So we don't know for sure that Erin had a terrible childhood. Maybe she did. I'm not saying she didn't. But what I'm saying is we've only got, anyone can say that. We've only got Erin's word for it, haven't we? So Erin puts on her glasses as she's shown messages sent to her Facebook friends when she talked about buying a food dehydrator and sharing a photo of mushrooms on the dehydrator's shelves. Chilling this, I think. So this is the woman who once said she didn't have a dehydrator to the police. She said she'd never had a dehydrator. And then 2, she said she'd never been foraging for mushrooms. So these are big lies again, aren't they? Where's the Pinocchio? And the only reason she's owning up to it now, is because she's been caught out. She only owned up to anything once she was caught out, and she's trying to say that she was scared because, people were starting to suspect her. So if people were starting to suspect her because for a reason. And, throwing the dehydrator away, saying she's never had one and she's never foraged for mushrooms. Wait till you hear about her foraging for mushrooms. She was an expert. As I say, her and Funky Tom, she knew as much as him about mushrooms. I honestly don't think this has been a good idea to bring Erin to testify. So she puts on her glasses to look at this. She looks creepy when she looks over the top of her glasses, doesn't she? So it looks like they're at the end of the cycle, she says, of the mushrooms shown on the shelves. How does she know? Because she's a bloody expert on dehydrating mushrooms. There before going in, she says of another photo of sliced button mushrooms. But you knew button mushrooms were going to come into it, didn't you? Mr. Mandy asked Erin if she developed an interest in wild mushrooms. Yeah, I did, yes. So this is a woman said she'd never foraged for mushrooms. Now she's saying she's got an interest in wild mushrooms. And she says that interest began in early 2020 when going on walks with her children during the first COVID lockdown. She says she first noticed lots of them popping up at the Corranborough Botanical Gardens during those walks, and her interest was drawn to them. Erin tells Mr. Mandy she's always enjoyed eating mushrooms. Sorry. Oh God, my dark sense of humour is going to come out now because they taste good and they're very healthy, she says. Well, not really, Erin, are they? They're not healthy because you thought you had a brain tumour, you thought you had lupus, you thought you had cancer. So they weren't that healthy with it. And, no offence, but, they didn't help you to diet, did they? You know what? This is a crazy world, isn't it? Really is. So Mr. Mandy asked Erin how frequently she would do shopping around Mount Waverley, Oakley and Clayton. She said she'd shop there when she had the kids up at the Mount Waverley home and that she bought dried mushrooms in Asian grocers. I'd use them in curries or pasta dishes or soups, spaghetti, she says. They just taste more interesting, more flavour, she says when asked about dried versus fresh mushrooms. More flavour, more poison, more poison. Oh my God. You know, had she poisoned? I wonder if she'd done anything like this before. You know, I'm really worrying now. What was Gail's illness when she was ill, which meant that Erin had to come to the rescue and help Don with the videos and things. Wonder what was wrong with Gail. And then, of course, Simon, he was ill quite a few occasions. So she'd been putting them in curries or pasta dishes or soup or spaghetti. More interesting, more flavour. Yeah. Yeah. What a scary person this is. So she began picking mushrooms in 2020 when she discovered mushrooms growing in the Corumburra area. And the first time I noticed them, I remember because my dog was eating some. Oh, God, her poor dogs. And I picked all the mushrooms I could see because I wanted to try to figure out what they were to see if that might be a problem for him. And then she discovered that it's hard to figure out what a mushroom is, except for some obvious examples. That's why you shouldn't eat any of them, Erin. Does it, you know what what she's now saying is she found these mushrooms that a dog discovered. She picked them all and then tried them. She said some species were edible, but there was another species she was concerned about, which she said she believes is called innercibe. No way. Oh, she believes it's called innercibe. You know, just like you'd just know that if you didn't know anything about mushrooms, wouldn't you? Oh, yeah, that's innercibe. I don't know anything about mushrooms. I've never foraged for mushrooms, but I think that's innercibe. Oh, my God, this woman is so full of lies. It is untrue. So innercibe, would you know that? Is a genus of mushrooms covering more than 1,000 species. Honestly, Funky Tom would be proud of this woman. Let's just have a look at Funky Tom. I want to look at Funky Tom now. So Funky Tom was our mushroom expert, and it was him, wasn't it, that put on the mushroom. Oh, have I taken his photo off? Oh, I haven't got his photo handy. Oh, there he is. Yeah, I thought I had taken his photo off. Funky Tom, he would be proud of Erin, wouldn't he? And it was him, he's the expert. It was him who said that death cap mushrooms had been seen. And he posted that on that iNaturalist site that Erin had looked at. So she knew there were death cap mushrooms because Funky Tom had posted that there were. So, yeah, this is the woman who never foraged for mushrooms, she told the police initially. Now she knows what an innercibe is. Of course, everybody knows that, don't they? Then she tested wild mushrooms and ate them. She says she found field and horse mushrooms in the paddock near her home and eventually consumed them. It was a process over several months in the lead up to it. But when I got to a point where I was confident about what I thought they were, I cut a bit off one of the mushrooms, fried it up with some butter, ate it, and then saw what happened. Oh, yeah, you would do that, wouldn't you? Oh, let's just taste this mushroom, because just try and see if it is a deadly toxic mushroom. They tasted good. I didn't get sick. I honestly don't see the point of this testimony. To me, it's made Erin look more guilty than she was before, if possible. So, partway through the questioning, the prosecution asked to raise a matter in the absence of the jury and the public hearing is paused. So, they had a break, then they had lunch. Then there was ongoing legal discussions. And then they just summarised. Bit of a delay. Then the jury came back in. So we'll go to that in a minute. I just want to come and make sure everybody's okay in chat. Don't forget to like. Put your fingerprints on the like button. Just make sure everybody's okay. Everybody's okay. Oh, dear me. Amazing. This testimony is ridiculous, personally, I think. Just, you know, is Mr. Mandy on the prosecution side? God. Aye. So when they all come back, when all those things happen, he asks her about the meal she cooked for her relatives on the 29th of July. This is very, very important. Do you accept, he says, that there must have been death cap mushrooms in it? And Erin says, yes, I do. Do you remember where the mushrooms that went into that meal came from? He asks. She replies, the vast majority came from the local Woolworths in Leongatha, and there was some from the grocer in Melbourne. However, Erin says that the specific purchase of the mushrooms is not clear in her mind, beyond it being in the April school holidays. I know it was in the April school holidays. I think we went there for a week or two in the April school holidays. Maybe only a week, she says. So don't forget, her phone was, the data from her collected from her phone showed that she was in the areas that Funky Tom had said he had seen death cap mushrooms. So she says she's purchased mushrooms from those kind of shops before, including shiitake, porcini, and enoki varieties. And she said sometimes the bags might say something like wild mushroom mix or forest mushroom. And she says that due to the short season of mushrooms, she would dry and preserve them to have them available later in the year. Did you dehydrate mushrooms you'd foraged? Mr. Mandy asks. I did, she says. Erin said she began foraging mushrooms within days of purchasing a dehydrator. She also tells the court she would dehydrate mushrooms bought from the store. Now, don't forget, initially, when the police asked her, instead of saying this, you know, that yes, oh, well, you know, she did forage mushrooms and she did, so that would have been her best defense, wouldn't it? That she foraged these death cap mushrooms by accident and didn't realise what they were. That would have been her very best defence. But you know what? She couldn't say that because right from the beginning, she'd lied about foraging mushrooms. So she couldn't suddenly say, oh, well, actually, I did forage mushrooms. She'd already said right from day one she didn't forage mushrooms. She didn't have a dehydrator. She never had a dehydrator. She got the mushrooms in the Asian grocery store. So she could not change from that story. But that, if she were, I think when she went to the hospital that day and they said to her, oh, you may have death cap poison, mushroom poison, I think she was gobsmacked because she couldn't believe they'd discovered her secret so quickly. That's my opinion. So she lied because she didn't know what to say. It caught her off guard. And then looking back, she should have said other things, but she didn't have time to think about it. She tells the court, the court is shown some photos of the dehydrator and some mushrooms on the dehydrator shelf on scales. So the court is shown a photo of mushrooms on a scale, which Erin says were part of a bit of an experiment to see if mushrooms turned out okay being dehydrated whole rather than sliced. And she says the end result was the mushrooms were not looking good at all. They were still a bit mushy inside. They just didn't dry properly, she says. She doesn't think she tried them. Erin says she also foraged some slippery jack and honey mushroom varieties from the Corumburra area, and she says they were very nice to eat, and she was very confident she had correctly identified the species. God, she's just mad to mess about with those things. And Erin is asked if when she went foraging she had anyone with her. She said, the kids were with me during the COVID period, so 2020, the lockdown period's 2021. She says the children generally ran around and did their own thing while she was foraging, but they definitely saw what I was doing. Now, we must remember the children in their video interviews, they said they couldn't remember ever going foraging with Erin. And do you know what? I think it'd be dangerous to take children with you, wouldn't it? You know, a child might easily pick up a mushroom and put it to its mouth. So she says she recalls some oak trees at Corumburra Botanical Gardens, and she believes she foraged mushrooms near to those trees. Now, don't forget, death cap mushrooms, they grow next to oak trees, apparently. And she says more generally, she took the mushrooms she foraged home. She cleaned them, and if she wasn't planning to use them that day, she sliced and dried them before storing them in a Tupperware container on the shelf. Just dicing with death, if you pardon the expression, like dice mushrooms. Literally dicing with death, in my opinion, to forage mushrooms. Anyway, she says she was going to use the mushrooms she bought from an Asian grocer in Melbourne. Remember, she can't remember which grocer it was. The actual council went round there to try and find out which supermarket it was, because it was dangerous. The fact she supposedly bought them in a supermarket, other people might have bought, a similar batch, but nothing was ever found. Anyway, she was going to use them, but she said they were very pungent, and so she put them in a container and stored them at her Leongatha home. So earlier in the trial, mycologist or mushroom expert, Funky Tom May, he had told the court that dried death cap mushrooms have an unpleasant smell. Anyway, that's where it comes to an end, because Justice Beale, the judge, we'll have a look at a photo of him in a minute, he interjects and he takes the chance to adjourn the court for the day, and her testimony will continue tomorrow. Oh my God, so we're going into Wednesday now, and she's still got to be cross-examined, so I don't know if it's even going to finish this week, this case. Because, this is a lot, isn't it, for the prosecutor to cross-examine. So what do you think? I'm sure you'll all let me know in comments. What do you make of this testimony? Do you think that Erin was right to give testimony, or do you think this has made the case worse against her? Personally, I think it's made it worse, or, it certainly hasn't made me think, oh, oh, maybe she's not guilty, because I just think she's a liar even more now. Because she clearly stated she had not foraged ever for mushrooms. And now we find out she's a practical expert. But not only she has foraged for mushrooms, she's done it for years. She knows a lot about mushrooms. It's not even that she's just an occasional forager. I think there's some real planning gone in. Personally, that's what I think. I think there's been some real planning gone into this. I think she meant to hurt them, at least. Whether she meant to kill them or not, I don't know. But I think she planned it, and I think she did it out of spite, and I think she's a nasty person. And I wouldn't be surprised if she's done it before. But maybe she just overdid it this time. Anyway, let me know what you think, as always, in comments. I'll be back Well, I'll probably be back later with talking about something else, but I'll definitely be back tomorrow for the next instalment. And in the meantime, enjoy your day or your evening or whatever you're doing. And I'll see you really soon in the next video. And as always, may your God go with you. But please don't forget to like. If you're not subscribed already, please subscribe. And don't forget to press your notification bell so you get notifications. Because otherwise sometimes you don't get notifications. But anyway, thank you so much. I'll see you really soon in the next video. And until then, may your God go with you. Bye.